man Lou here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. It is the Nasties as we go to, probably going to go down as one of my favourite of the list that we've seen. A movie that we enjoyed thoroughly, completely and utterly compelled to watch, puzzle about where it was going, loving a lot of the angles, art direction, filming style, character work, acting, and just general feeling of the era it exists in. Infuriated by the idiocy of the name that resulted in this getting fucking caught up in the Nasties, because it's the only reason it does.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It is, of course, the Cannibal Man. Spanish, La Semana del Asesino, which translates literally to Week of the Killer, which makes more sense because it's spread over a fucking week period.
Yeah, it tested my Spanish because I could work out which days what they were.
But that would make more sense, even though that's a terrible title.
Yeah,
but the Cannibal Man, we'll get into why that's so stupid in a moment. 1972, directed by Eloy de la Iglesia and written by de la Iglesia Antonio Foss. Why can I do Spanish better than I can do other ones?
Antonio Foss, yeah.
So, the Cannibal Man. What does this film contain? Nothing to do with cannibalism.
Yeah, none at all. Yeah, we thought it might go certain.
The only way it can be drawn to that is the hint that it suggests that when he's disposing of body parts in the mincer, that is then the food people are eating. It drops a hint towards that.
Yeah,
but that is no scenes of cannibalism.
But and it wouldn't call for it to be called that.
The Cannibal Man.
Yeah.
It's stupid. Absolutely stupid. The film was also known as The Apartment on the 13th Floor. What?
That's the one that he looks down from.
That's on the 13th floor, is it? You know this, right? There's nothing to suggest
He's
that.
He's looking from a pretty high height.
Which is not the main character. Nothing to do with the main character.
But he's quite a big part of the integral part of the film.
We have like one scene that takes place in that apartment at the end. The apartment on the 13th floor.
You see him looking out from it.
But why is that the title of the film? Why is that the focus?
I'd like that better than The Cannibal Man.
They're both equally shit, in my opinion.
I like that one better.
So The Cannibal Man really didn't get much bother. Because no doubt when it was actually watched, they were like, yeah, this is fine. And actually got released with 3 seconds cut in 1993. Probably likely to be just some of them more, not more violent, but some of the death scenes.
Yeah.
Right. It was prosecuted. Are you fucking serious? But only made the list due to its cannibal title. Apart from some slaughterhouse footage, there is almost no violence in this movie. Yeah. Even the deaths are often cut, and you just see a little splash of blood. It would almost certainly be released and cut in the UK if, check this, if it was resubmitted. We have done movies in this list that haven't been resubmitted, and we get it.
Yeah, this one.
This is, you are missing out.
It's interesting.
If we can give you any recommendation, go check out this movie. It is thoroughly enjoyable. Yeah. And we'll explain a little more as to why. We're going to summarise this one more than detail because I think an important aspect of this film is how it focuses on the characters rather than an overall... The plot is basic, what it is. But it's then like, here's the characters and how they deal and descend as the movie goes on. Characters then. Vicente Parra as Marcos. Holy shit, this dude is brilliant.
Yeah, man. He's cool.
He is unbelievably watchable. Emma Cohen as Paula. I quite liked her character too. Eusebio Poncelia as Nestor. An intriguing character at the end, at the beginning. By the end, they really, really leave some things hanging in the air that leave you going, that's a really interesting angle. Yeah. And we wondered if they were going to do certain things, and they didn't.
No.
And we appreciated that they didn't do that because it felt lazy and cheap to do that. Well, you know what? Why are we dancing around it? Yeah. He's gay.
Yeah.
He's very effeminate, but he's also got a very dark personality, and that attracts. And he sees what Marcos does throughout the movie because he lives in a high-rise apartment above Marcos's shanty house, so he sees it all, and that's revealed. But he seems to have an attraction to Marcos than anything else, And that created a question in our head that we thought that Nesta might attempt to seduce or kiss Marcus, and then result in Marcus killing him and all that.
Yeah.
That never happens. In fact, what the movie actually does plays around with is Marcus has an attraction to him too.
Yeah.
And we see that by them becoming friends.
Yeah.
And at the end when he threatens to kill Nesta,
yeah,
realising that Nesta knows what he's done, but he can't do it.
Yeah.
Fucking fascinating stuff.
It was good.
And we were like, damn, that's some good writing. Vicky Lagos as Rosa, Lola Herrera as Carmen, Charlie Bravo as Esteban, Fernando Sanchez Pollock as Senor Ambrosio, which is the father of Paula. So the story is basically this. Marcos, we're in Spain during a specific ruler's... I can't remember the ruler. Fuck. It's a particularly difficult ruler that was an issue for disparity between the rich and the poor.
Oh, yeah. Really well shown as well.
Yeah, really well shown. Because basically Marcos lives in a very small shanty on a very deserted piece of land that they're clearly trying to build on. Yeah. And he lives under the shadow of this expensive high-rise apartment where the rich live.
And they show, like, it's good, they show, like, kids that also live in, like, a few houses around there. They show kids that kind of live around there. The bar that he frequents.
Yep, the little runner shops.
Where he works. Like, it shows it well.
But also, they also build on that as well to show the sort of dictatorship they lived under, where there's a great scene where him and Nesta are simply sent outside a cafe, and they get approached by the police and demanded to show ID. They're not doing it, they're literally having a drink.
Yeah, sitting outside. They're not doing
at a cafe.
Yeah, not being aggressive or swearing, literally just sitting down.
Which
is like show your IDs. And obviously that's part of the thing, you had to have IDs at all times.
I think it was something like that. Yeah. For the life of me, it's a famous guy, I can't remember his name, he's probably screaming at us right now. I should have written it down, unfortunately I didn't. But also, like, a really another good thing as well is these big expansive stretch of land, heat.
Yeah.
Good God, this film will make you feel warm and sweaty based upon how it's filmed. So you get it with Marcus's house, you know, it's a very run-down place, but with a huge skylight that has the sun baking him all the time, which obviously ties into later on when he doesn't know what to do with the bodies and the smell that comes from it. And even that is done incredibly well, where the wild dogs are attracted to his house, causing him problems. But that skylight allows Nesta to be able to see from his apartment and seeing what happens. So you might be wondering, well, you haven't really touched upon why Marcus even has bodies. It all starts with an accident. And it's simply this. He's dating Paula. She's younger than him. Yeah. And she comes from a bit more of an upper class family. Yeah. And he knows her father will approve and stuff like that. So they kind of date in secret. He works at a slaughterhouse, doesn't think his job is befitting of marrying her, and has been putting off marrying her until he can get a promotion. But she's quite insistent they marry and stuff like that. They've gone out for a night, and they get into an argument with a taxi driver. And Marcus refuses to pay. The taxi driver pursues him, and in a fight, the taxi driver gets killed. Marcus, obviously realising, well, look, I'm going to go to prison for this. Yeah. He's like, look, you know, no one knows, it's hide the body, you'll get away with it, that kind of thing. She's less sure about it, but they do agree to kind of cover it up. She then has real doubts with it, issues. She's constantly like, we need to go to the police, we need to go to the police. If you don't go to the police, she basically says to him, if you don't go to the police, I'm going to go to the police. Which results in him desperate killing her. You can say that's an extreme reaction, but I think the film does a really, really good job of explaining to him, like, he's knows, because she's insisting. That's right. She's naive. She's young and naive, insisting to him that they will be able to explain to the police that it was an accident. Yeah.
And he's like, no, people of my status
will go to prison for this. And you're like, yeah, he's right.
He would.
Don't get me wrong, mate. You did it. Turn yourself in. Yeah. You did it. But goodness me, do you understand? Yeah. And you are a bit like with her, like, shut up and leave him alone. That's bad about it. You know. But he ends up killing her, strangling her. This starts a chain reaction. She's now missing. Yeah. And this starts a chain reaction that results in more bodies ramping up.
The dad comes over.
Yeah, dad comes over. He ends up killing him. The local diner, there's a woman that works behind her who's super into Marcos.
I think she picks and chooses. I think Marcos is a flavour of the month.
That's right. Yeah, she's very flirtatious.
She's very flirtatious with a lot of people, and I think her husband's a bit of a doldrum, so she's looking for something new. Yep. And exciting in a probably quite boring life.
Yeah, that's true. So. But like, she forces her way inside. She notices the smell, so Marcus has to kill her. His own brother at one stage in a pretty long, just a genuinely uncomfortable scene where you're like, God, these things are going off the rails and stuff like that. But in between these murders, what you have is this man sleepwalking his way through life. You can see in his face he doesn't know what to do. He's constantly puzzled, but he's trying to sort of find an angle of way to get away with this as his life spirals out of control.
Yeah.
The one person that ends up grounding him, surprisingly, is Nesta.
Yeah.
When they meet and they smoke together, and Nesta takes him up to the rooftop pool. That's a great scene of the disparity between stuff and all that. And their budding friendship is really interesting. We worked out earlier on that we suspected Nesta knew more.
Yeah.
Because he would often say pointed remarks and things like that that would get Marcus's back up, but stuff like that. And eventually, with the smell becoming too strong and a real issue, Marcus ends up coming up with the idea of basically cutting up the body, transporting him in a bowling bag, and taking him to work, where he's been given the job of looking after this massive new mincer machine.
Yeah.
These parts, admittedly, are a little slow, as we do repeat these scenes a few times where he's standing in front of the mincer and stuff like that. There's a scene where he's accused of stealing meat and they search the bag, but at that point he's already got rid of stuff and things like that. But there are some good tense scenes as well, where he runs into a little group of bullies, as it were, who take the bag where he's got some body parts in there and then throw it around and stuff like that. So there are some good stuff with that. But ultimately, what I thought was really interesting about him, he never fully is able to get away with it.
No.
Because he can only take small amounts of meat, the body, into work. So it's taken him forever.
It's kind of like a meaty Shawshank, isn't it?
It's a meaty Shawshank, that kind of thing. So as the week goes on, the smell increases. He comes home to find dogs are all over his doorstep. You know, people are inquiring after killing his brother. His brother's wife wants to know, and his lies are mounting up. You know, he starts with saying, "Oh, your brother never came," and then he's forced to have to say he did, but he went out. Yeah. It's like, well, I ain't gonna fly for much longer. Yeah. So
everyone knows each other. It feels like a community. Everyone knows each other as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it does end up resulting in, like I said, his sort of descent, and Nesta inviting him to his apartment and revealing, "Look, I've seen what you did, and I can see directly into your skylight. So I've seen you kill all these people." Marcus does look like he's going to kill him, smashes the glass and all that. And Nesta he suggests he wants to die. He's very suicidal, he's a very dark character. But Marcus he doesn't. No. And then we kind of like end with him sort of wandering, and we get some touristy kind of shots and stuff like that before he turns himself in.
Yeah.
And you're like, huh. And you're left going, wow. And it leaves a lot of impact. I don't think we're doing it justice.
No.
I don't think we're making it sound very interesting. I must reiterate, it's the characters that make this movie. With a very small cast and a very same location. The house, the apartment block, the shops, and that location. I end up feeling like we were there. We were with them. We were spending time with them, and you were focused on who they were. Bear in mind as well, we didn't watch this dubbed. We watched this subtitled. Yeah. So we were getting the natural accents through as well.
I enjoyed that. I kind of feel they use Nesta, like it's not, I couldn't say like a breath of fresh air, but it does feel like the scenes they're in, it's a lot cooler. So they meet in a bar, and it's cool.
Often at night.
At night, it's going to be cooler. The swimming pool, like it feels like
his
Nesta
apartment will be
like
air conditioned.
Oasis,
yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, that's what I thought of Nesta. And then it made me realise at the end that Marcus saw Nesta, even with all his money, he wasn't happy. So even he wasn't happy, and you've got all these secrets building up. Like you're never going to be happy. Nesta was encouraging him to kill him, and it's like, it didn't make no difference. Yeah, you're rich, and look at this. Yeah. So it kind of, I guess, finalised what he needed to do there. Ultimately, he'd been executed. I'm pretty sure 72. Sorry, public executions. Not public executions still existed in Spain, probably. 72, I'd imagine. Maybe.
But obviously the amount of bodies piling up. Now that brings us back to the obvious subject, the subject matter of this. We really liked the fucking film. Really did. I'm a big fan of it. It's easily one of my favourite of this list. But it is a nasty. And that brings us down to that, which is like, no, this is not going to satisfy you if you're after things that feel nasty.
No, definitely not.
There are a lot of dead people killed, but a lot of them are super, super tame. I think probably the darkest scene I can think of is when he arranges the two bodies in the bed, and like you sort of see a bloody bludgeon hole and stuff like that, or when he opens the door and the flies are all buzzing and the smell is making him sick.
I think things like that, the implied stuff tends to be nastier than seeing it sometimes.
But what constitutes a nasty for the most part is often the visual visual. And often the sticking on one particular shot more than any other gratuitous violence. This movie doesn't have that.
No.
Doesn't have that. So you come back to the stupid fucking title. And we come back to it, right? There's a certain gleefulness so implying that the minced up food that he does ended up in the mouths because they make soup.
Yeah.
They make soup, this company.
Soup, yeah. And then, like, there's a bit where he's eating it. He's eating it at the diner.
At the diner. And he freaks out.
Oh, wait, it's coming from your factory. You should enjoy this food. And he's like...
And he freaks out. But I think that's more implied than anything else. And it's... I don't want to say it's not necessary because ultimately the whole point... I mean, did they even really have to worry about... Yeah, you know what they could cut out and change? Just he never disposes of the body. What difference does the disposal of the bodies make in the end result of the film? Nothing. Just the smell increases, he struggles, he deals, and we then it'd probably be less nasty-ish, but that's basically, it'd still make it an enjoyable movie for me.
Definitely.
I think this one stands out. Really, if you have an opportunity, check out The Cannibal Man. I think you'll enjoy it as much we did for the story and character work in it. If you have seen it, you know what to do. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?